Hello and welcome to a special episode of The Grid. I am Scott Kelby, not even close, not even close. I'm Larry Becker standing in for my friend Scott, who is, if you follow him, you know he's on the road with this cool new camera in Iceland. So in his stead on The Grid today, I'm Larry Becker. To my right is Rick Sammon, Canon Explorer of Light. Bruce Dorn is on the other side, Canon Explorer of Light. And I take some pictures with a cell phone sometimes. But these guys are the real deal. And so the reason we're here on The Grid today is to talk about three very important things. Rick Sammon, Bruce Dorn, and the Canon 5D Mark IV. Guys, thank you so much for coming in.
Well, thank you, Larry, man. You're one of the good guys. We've been friends for a long time. Bruce, you and I, man, I admire the video that you do and the stills. So it's an honor. It's really an honor to be here with you guys.
Yeah,
really.
Thanks, Rick, and great to be here with you today, Larry.
So first of all, before we go any further, what you should do in your web browser is bring up their respective websites so you can kind of look at their work, because we're going to take questions back and forth from you guys. But if you aren't familiar with these people, you should be. But feel free to go ahead and get their sites. Now, is your site ricksammon.com?
It's ricksammon.com, and actually in my gallery, I have some Iceland pictures here taken with the new 5D Mark IV.
Very good to know. Yeah, I've been following you on Facebook and seen them a lot there. And Bruce?
And I'm the world's worst at social media, so don't go to my website, but do look for me on Instagram at dorn.bruce.
Okay, very good. So we're going to go through the camera. We're going to go through some of the features and try and get through some of the things, the reasons that people are so excited about these. And then the main thing is going to be to answer your questions also. So first up, we have some hello and welcomes from Peter T. in London, says greetings from London. Raging Badger says good night from Slovakia. Wow. And Fran Hughes, excited for The Grid as always. Fran, so are we. Mr. London Boy says love Bruce, awesome guy. Yeah, absolutely, us too.
Wow, that's fabulous.
So, and Carl says Larry is a mini Scott.
Mini Scott, that's pretty funny.
Scott Light.
Yeah, Scott, all the Scott with none of the talent. How's that? So, yeah, glad to be here, and we are thrilled to talk about this awesome new camera. So, guys, you've worked with the camera a little bit in a couple of different circumstances. Obviously, I've seen pictures from Iceland. And Bruce, where and what have you shot?
Well, I received one of the very earliest samples, and believe me, it was really pre-release, to shoot a video clip for Uncle Canon. And it's out there floating around on the interwebs on the Canon website. You can find it. It's called The Search for Secret Waters.
Okay.
And I shot it specifically with the intention of exploring the 4K feature. You know, the D-series camera has had video since, you know, the 5D Mark II, but now we have 4K. And while 4K may not be something that most people have a lot of immediate need for, still photographers should really investigate it, because if you put the camera in 4K mode, you make a few prudent adjustments, you suddenly have a 30 frame per second, 8 megapixel still camera, because each and every frame of the 4K video is a JPEG.
It's an incredible function. And those 8.8 megapixel files can be printed big.
Yep, 20 by 30s within range. And the camera has so many awesome features on the video side. It's not an A-style camera, that is to say something that I would choose to have carry the entire video production, but it's a terrific camera for what it is. It's kind of, I like people may think that us explorers have the inside track all the time. I got a box on my front porch. It had this camera in it, no instruction book, and a mandate to go make a cool looking video. So
and no English menus.
Yeah, and the menus were all in Japanese. So I've learned so much since then, you know, and one of the main things was about the fact that the app to control the camera actually allows you to do touchscreen focus. You can control essentially all of the settings within 50 feet with your iPhone. And boy, I'm ready to shoot myself for not knowing that in advance, because I could have done a lot more cool stuff. But
yeah, well, we didn't know that.
No,
I mean,
we
didn't know
know
what to expect.
happy to go back out.
Rick, you have grabbed this camera. You've had all
Yep.
kinds of different Canon cameras. When you shot this, you shot in Iceland. Where else have you shot?
Just in Iceland.
Okay.
But, you know, people say, how do you describe this camera? So, you know, people ask me all the time, like Bruce has a specialty, a video. People ask me all the time, Rick, what's your specialty? And I joke, but it's true. I say my specialty is not specializing because I like
Right.
to do it all. I like to do the people, the HDR, the slow motion. So this is the perfect camera. The 5D Mark IV, I think, is a perfect camera for someone like me who doesn't specialize. But I do have some Iceland pictures here that I would love to share sometime during the show with the audience.
Yeah, we are going to go through those, and I think it'd be kind of interesting if you would tell us not just I took this in Iceland with this camera, but let's go into a little of how.
Sure. So I think the first one that we have up is an in-camera HDR, and you know people ask me all the time about the contrast range. And
Sure.
So the thing is, if we get this picture up, which I know it's coming up soon, it's a fisheye picture taken with the 5D Mark IV. Like, look at this shot. This is 0, +2, and -2. Look at the detail in the highlights in the clouds.
And this is in-camera HDR.
This is in-camera HDR, and look deep into the shadows, and look at the fine detail. My number one tip when I teach exposure is expose for the highlights. I don't want, Bruce is shaking his head, you can't see him because we're looking at the picture, but I want people to expose for the highlights, because if they're blown out more than about a stop, they're hard to get back.
Sure.
So I'm finding I'm having to do less processing. In this picture, you mentioned the touch screen. You know, we could touch the screen, we could place the focus anywhere we want, so very quickly. I mean, this is actually a funny story because we went to this glacial lagoon. I think Scott's up there either today or tomorrow. But anyway, we went there to photograph the beautiful sunset, a dud sunset. But I followed my tip. Always look back, right, which is a good sunset tip, right, or sunrise tip. And these geese started to swim by, so we ran, and with the fast autofocusing, the fast shutter speed, I was able to get this shot. Really, the camera did all the work. So I'll take half the credit for the picture. But again, look at those highlights. And when I see a scene like this, I want it to look like it looks to my eyes. Everything in the scene in focus. So
that
I'm choosing
looks like a painting.
Well, thank you. And I might apply a painting effect to it, but you can see from the way background to the near foreground, everything in the scene is in focus. Another thing I look for is when I teach a separation. If we could just go back to that shot. I took several shots. Notice how each of the geese is separated.
Yeah.
So separation is a very important tip when it comes to photography. And in the next shot that was just up there, I have a camera mounted on a tripod, and I'm using a slow shutter speed.
Sure.
Now, to get everything in the focus, get everything in the scene in focus, wide-angle lens, small aperture, focus 1/3 into the scene. So that touch screen, this is how now I focus 1/3 into the screen.
You're touching it.
I'm touching it. So this is like a great
awesome.
way. You know, it slows you down a little. You know, landscape photographers, Ansel Adams, they use the big view cameras on a tripod. And I tell people, like in a shot like that, if you try to envision the end result, if you say to yourself, you're only going to take one picture rather than, you know, like using the spray and pray approach. If you just say to yourself, if I could only take one picture, what would that one picture be? I promise my students that they'll get a higher percentage of keepers for sure.
And I can affirm that while we were away to the pictures, he was touching it. The screen.
But the workflow. Okay, so we had a conversation earlier today, and people were mentioning that professionals a couple years ago would see a touch screen on a camera and just go, oh, well, that's a touch screen. Isn't that cute? You little kids, go ahead and play with your cell phone cameras. And now everybody's loving the touch screen.
Yeah, I'm retraining myself. You know, I'm used to spinning the menus. I'm very familiar with the Canon user interface, the combination of knobs and buttons, but the menus, the touchscreen on the menus, and then being able to swipe. I mean, we all use smartphones of some sort, and be able to pinch and expand and do all the gesture controls, finding your way through the menus, being able to look in closely and see if the shot you just captured actually was sharp. All very useful stuff. I'm retraining quickly, and I'm very happy with this new technology.
I got to know that you're very fast with Canon gear. Habitually fast. You know where everything is naturally, intuitively. When you went to the touchscreen, did it speed you up?
Yeah, I think it is quicker. Now, I've recently had to change my dominance from right eye dominant to left eye dominant. So now my nose makes adjustments. It's not like that, but it is really terrific. I do enjoy working with it.
Okay, let's get to some of your questions. Ryan D. Law says, hi from Red Deer, Alberta, Canada. That is not a question, but it is a very valid statement. David Thorin says, hello from Sweden. Gianni Felici, I have to apologize. Ciao from Italy. Yeah. Wayne Young 20. Rick, love your classes in Kelby 1. Obviously, I'm the one that needs glasses. Love your classes in Kelby 1. And his in-person classes are on the level with nothing else. It's just great stuff. Raging Badger says, stupid question. Isn't 30 megapixels too much? Now, this is it's not a stupid question at all. No. Wouldn't it be better to stick with lower resolutions, better ISO for file size and faster FPS, frames per second? Additionally, one of the things that strikes me, if you're holding a camera and you move it a little bit and you've got 20 megapixels, if you've got 12 megapixels and you move your camera a little bit, 12 megapixels on a full frame is not, you can move a lot and it's forgiving. And now all of a sudden you really increase that pixel density. Now you're at 30 megapixels, 30.4 megapixels on this. And so just the slightest hand movement means potential image blur.
Well, there's another reason for all these pixels. I don't know if you guys know this, my wife, who I think is watching, Susan, she knows I have a OCD, OCD, obsessive cropping disorder. No, so if you go back and look at those pictures, we don't have to go back, or we'll look at some others, I would say almost every one of my pictures is cropped. Because I just want what's in the frame, what I want in the frame. I suggest to my students, think like a painter. Just don't fill up the frame with stuff you don't want. So having all those pixels, I'll be able to continue with my OCD and make really big prints with this image sensor camera. I mean, it's totally cool.
See, I think it fits a really great sweet spot. You've got the 5DS and SR, which is at 50 megapixels, as I like to call them. And then you got the 1DX Mark II at 20. So this falls in there in between. It's not as fast on its capture rate as the 1DX Mark II. It's not as pokey as the 5DSR. It's really kind of the Papa Bear, Baby Bear, Mama Bear kind of thing. It's right in the middle. It's just right in a lot of ways. It's 7 frames per second, 30 megapixels. I think it works out to be a really good sweet spot. And as far as I can see, the dynamic range looks terrific. This sensor is great. I'm really impressed with the sensor. I feel like something's going on under the hood that they're not really sharing with me, that I've seen coming in with the ADD. That would be a good camera for you.
Yeah, right. I'm hoping to get the ADD for the OCD, for the OCD photography.
Yeah. And then the 1DX Mark II. This inherited so much great stuff from the 1DX Mark II. The focusing system where all the focusing spots are cross-type. It's really got a whole bunch of really great stuff going on that makes it feel like a new camera, and yet it still works with the same battery. Uses the same cards we're used to. Economic choices there, I think, really good ones. I think it falls into a really good sweet spot. 30 megapixels is right there.
Yep.
I have all kinds of questions I want to ask these guys, but I want your questions to take precedent. Dirk Steffen, 007, in the previous webcast, which was for members only. If you don't know, Kelby 1 has members-only webcasts, and we did a full hour plus with some technicians from Canon talking specifically about the tech questions that Kelby 1 members had. And so that's what Dirk is referring to. In the previous webcast, it was stated that the dual pixel autofocus will change the way landscape photographers work in live view. Have you made the same observation? What do you think about live view for landscape, guys?
Well, I'll toss that one down.
Well, like I was saying, focusing 1/3 into the frame is a great way to try to get the maximum depth of field. Of course, the closer something is, the harder it is, and there are apps to help you,
sure.
depth of field apps. But also, we're talking about the bigger sensor. There's a bigger, the screen on the back is 60% more pixels? So, there's an expression, everything looks good on the small screen, everything looks even better on the small screen. But seriously, you could zoom in and check your focus and check your exposure and things like that. So I think the bigger screen is another really cool feature.
Yeah, you're seeing directly from the sensor, whereas you're trusting the autofocus system, the one that's based on the still side essentially in the pentaprism, I like to say. So when you tap on a part of the screen, widen it out, check it out, you'll know it's sharp.
Very good. Thank you for that question, Dirk. John Maury says, Rick, were you able to test the weather sealing in Iceland?
Well, I guess yes, because my camera stayed dry inside. And you know, there's an expression in Iceland, and Scott's there right now. They say, if you think the weather's bad in Iceland, wait 10 minutes. It'll get worse. So it's usually raining or windy or stuff like that. Some days it's like beautiful.
But from the pictures.
But I think from a I still carry the plastic bag with me, you know, just in case it's pouring or snowing.
Sure.
But I think that weather sealing is very, very important. And Rudy was telling us before some of the other advancements on that. So, yeah, if you're going to be out there shooting in adverse conditions like Bruce does too, I think that's really important.
Yeah, it's not, it's not the 1 series level, which is what I understand to be monsoon rated, something like several inches per hour of a downpour. And but it's absolutely an improvement. Camera's slightly smaller, slightly lighter, almost imperceptible, but those are all part of the things that changed.
Yeah, they were saying that the weather sealing is on par with the 7D Mark II, right?
Yep.
So, okay, like the photo says, is it better than the Rebel?
Nah.
Yeah. Yes, in every single imaginable way, I would think.
Well, it's faster. You get a bigger image, right?
Sure.
The autofocusing's faster too. So
Low light,
This
focus.
is sort of the main workhorse camera. I mean, I would
Sure.
say there are probably more pros working with this than there are even maybe the 1 series cameras. I mean, if you shoot Olympics, you shoot stuff where you really need the 14 frame per second capture rate, then you go with the 1 series. But probably every wedding photographer, portrait photographer, this would be their main go-to camera.
They're raving about it. Yeah, it's ideal for broad range.
Well, I like this because it takes the same batteries as some of the other. You know, I don't have the top of the line camera. This is my top of the line camera for what I do. Again, not specializing.
Sure.
You know, it's perfect.
Well, and you say top of the line camera, and this isn't the top of the line camera, but for a lot of people, it actually is because
For me, it is.
because like the 1DX Mark II has a 20 plus megapixel sensor, and this is 30. And granted, it is a little bit faster in frames per second, but I mean, you know, the price point here and the full feature set. Okay, let's move on. Fran Hughes says, Rick is an amazing photographer. I would agree with that. And even if I bought that 4, I wouldn't be able to get that shot, ha. But
She could. Come on one of my workshops. We teach people how to make pictures rather.
you just need this book. This is what you need in order to be able to do that, right, Rick?
But I think she's talking about maybe the iceberg shot.
Yeah.
You know, timing is everything, Bruce. You know, the light came together, the geese came together, the ice came together. I was in Iceland. I wasn't at the right time.
Yeah.
But getting back to the geese, what's the name of this feature in the back? The autofocus area select?
AF area, yeah.
You know, you can't see it on the camera. I don't think if I turn it around even, there's a shot again. I think this is one of the coolest features. Again, I didn't have the instruction book, but I figured out what this was. And to be able to change the focus to exactly where you want so quickly, I think that's pretty darn cool.
Big plus, big plus.
One of the other things that will help a lot of people, and people don't, if you're strictly a still shooter and you've never thought about video and you go, I don't care about 4K, it doesn't matter to me. What Bruce was talking about earlier, the 4K workflow, where you're shooting 30 frames per second in capturing this video, and those frames are each 8.8 megapixel frames. There are a lot of shots that clumsy shooters like me will start being able to capture and extract from the video and print large.
So I think it's important to understand the value of that feature. My camera, when I'm walking around, is set in video mode. It's set in 4K mode. If I'm out taking still pictures, I actually have it set so that I need to convert it back to still photography, because if that once-in-a-lifetime moment happens, I want to be able to have a video clip that could go viral, and I want to have publishable stills, and lots of them. Something crazy happens in front of you, camera flies up, boom, I'm shooting 30 frames per second. I have the potential to publish in both of those arenas. I'd rather slow down and convert it to a still camera with the flick of a switch than have to go the opposite direction if something really cool happens.
By itself, that point was worth watching this whole episode. That is valuable information.
And you'll be first to publish because you can actually extract the frames in camera. You can scroll through your take, find the killer frame, send it via Wi-Fi to your smart device, boom, you're published and you're making checks.
That's awesome. I want to take your class like now. All right, like the photo is saying, wondering about dynamic range versus the new Sony A7 models video specifically. Have you guys even shot with the A7 Sonys?
No, I haven't shot with that, but if Meredith could find the picture, there's a waterfall picture. It's like the waterfall's like going through the scene, and there's like white water blurred, and there's like clouds in the back. There it is. Like, look at the dynamic range of that scene.
Wow.
Again, getting back to expose, thank you, Meredith. Getting back to, and this one too, that looks like an angel, right?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Which brings me to like another topic. Maybe we could have a whole show about that we photograph things we recognize. But in all of these pictures, this is what I'm going for, dynamic range. I don't want those highlights blown out. And if we could just go back to maybe the first one or the other one, if we look at those, we have detail in all those areas. I'm also finding that, there's an expression, all raw files need sharpening. I'm finding I'm doing a lot less sharpening. Sharpening can drive a lot of people crazy. So
Sure.
This is super sharp. We have details in the shadows and highlight. And just a quick landscape photography tip. Look how the water is flowing through the scene from the top left, going through all the way down to the bottom. So rather than shooting it straight on this beautiful waterfall, I shot from an angle. And just another quick tip, again, getting back to everything looks good on the small screen. I'm bracketing with my shutter speeds. So I'm trying 1/4 of a second. I'm trying 1/5 of a second. I'm trying 1 second because I'm having so much fun. I don't know which I'm going to like. And just another quick tip on waterfall photography is shoot on rapid frame advance. Right?
Okay, tell me what you mean.
Or shoot on high frame rate. So in other words, just keep shooting because the water's going to flow and bounce off. So just don't take a shot, wait, shoot as many pictures as you can to see where the water's going to flow. HDR looks good for waterfalls too.
Now, I feel like I got to have a picture up here.
Yes.
While Rick likes water on rocks, I like water on rocks with curls. So what I was doing when I had the camera, I went over to Sedona and found some nice
beauty,
water
nice
spots.
Rocks.
And
look at those
and
rocks.
Those are great rocks.
If you look at it, if you
water.
stare at this picture long enough, you'll see weeds, rocks, and a stream. But
Yeah.
it takes a minute. I found, speaking to the dynamic range question, I found that I was actually crushing the blacks a little bit because I had so much detail in the shadows. And Arizona is fairly bright, so of course we have pretty bright highlights. And just as Rick said, and always expose for the highlights and see what happens on the shadows. If it gets really grim, I light for the shadows with my Canon speed lights. But in all of these cases, processing the new RAW files in DPP, which is currently the only place you can process these files. And by the way, that software is absolutely free, and it's the only RAW processor I use because everybody else has to extrapolate what's going on. Only Canon knows what's truly going on with the RAW files. So you get this incredible free software. And I sort of play with the highlight adjuster, play with the shadow adjuster a little bit. I also, because I'm a film motion picture shooter, and I use these cameras for motion work, I'm always paying very close attention to my picture styles. Now, those of you out there that do shoot video with the Canon DSLR bodies are probably used to shooting with neutral or faithful picture style, which does not sharpen in camera and gives you essentially the flattest file you can get. I played with shooting with this relatively recent picture style, fine detail. Absolutely the wrong thing to do for video, I guess, but it turned out pretty well, and all of the still files that I extracted from the video flow were shot with this same fine detail picture style and higher than normal shutter speeds. So while the video might look a little choppy when we see it, each one of those stills, I think I was usually about a 1/1600th of a second to maybe as high as 1/4000th of a second. That's the highest video shutter speed you can get. The traveling slit that creates the I think it's 1/8000th of a second shutter speed that's available for those guys on the still side, doesn't apply in video, but the sensor can output to the processor up to 1/4000th of a second. So it's a very interesting thing to work with. I found the files to have great dynamic range. I'm not one of these testers.
Yeah,
not a
and
pixel
while
peeper.
we're on that, David Photo says compare it to the 5D3.
I think it's better. I think it's better, at least equal, but I think better than the 5D Mark III. I saw another question related from Johnny Pedersen related to the 1.74 crop factor in 4K. That's kind of a gift to me because it's like having a no-loss teleconverter in the camera. With a 100 to 400 on the camera, I'm getting the equivalent of a 170 to 560 with no stop loss. Now, it does mean on the wide end that you have to go with a wider lens. I own wide angles. I have the 11 to 24, which becomes effectively a 19 to 41 millimeter. So that easily covers my needs on the wide angle end. The reason that it's got more of a sensor factor than the 1DX Mark II is a matter of how many pixels are on the sensor. At 30 megapixels, you have to take a smaller area to not have to do pixel binning. So 1.3 on the 1DX Mark II, 1.7 on this camera. Adjust your thinking a little bit, and it's no problem whatsoever.
Would you address the first comment up there? It's from Jack
I can't really pronounce his last name. Jack Rosicki. Basically, he's one of our friends at Canon Explorers of Light. He says, "Oh, I finally tuned in. Can Rick and Bruce swap glasses to have different looks?"
There you go. There you go. Now, I suggest that we swap pants.
No.
Too.
No.
Hey, you know what?
I don't want to be a part of that.
Do I look cooler?
Yeah.
Oh, you look a lot cooler, dude.
Yeah, you look Dorn special.
Okay, I look Dorn special. Hey, Bruce, I need my glasses back.
Yeah, okay.
But I would like to say something about Bruce's pictures. First of all, next time I go to Iceland, can you come and bring those models? I mean, those are, that's amazing. But Meredith, I don't know if we could find a shot. Bruce showed a shot up there with a girl was lying down, a woman was lying down, and one foot was up in the air and it was kind of dark in the background. I don't know if we could find that, but anyway, when I give that's it. And it's a little dark on the top left.
Her feet are enormous. Did you notice that?
Well, I didn't. No, I was actually.
The toes, particularly, are extraordinarily long.
I was actually looking at this technically. When I give a seminar, I ask people in the room. I say, how many people are worried about noise in a picture? And a lot of people raise their hand. So I say, my father had a great expression about noise. He would say, if a picture's so boring that you notice the noise, it's a boring picture. So it sounds kind of funny, but I do look for noise. And what I'm finding with this camera, just to go back to that picture for a second, that in the out of focus areas, in the dark areas, I'm getting less noise. So I'm having to use these noise reduction features. So I'm having to do less sharpening, less noise reduction. So I could basically be out there shooting more. Who wants to? I love sitting at the computer working with the software, but I want to be out there shooting. So I'm finding less noise. And if you look at those Iceland pictures, you'd see
it's not even a factor anymore. I mean, I think we're now at these nosebleed high ISOs, and it's absurd. I mean, you can shoot in light lower than you can see in. Honestly, generally, when the light gets so low that you need ISOs above 32,000, then you need a cane with a white tip as well. But I'll be lighting at that point, because generally speaking, the light at really low levels is relatively ugly. So at that point, I bring the old available magic, get rid of the available light, and bring the available magic, and make it look good.
Makes perfect sense. Todd 5283 says, are those waterfall photos a single frame or are they auto HDR mode?
Some are auto HDR. When I say auto, I set the camera for 0, +2, and -2.
Okay.
I never go to 0, +3, -3. I never do the -1, and +1. So it's always 0. And the waterfall shot where you saw the water going through the frame like that, that was set on the Art Vivid mode.
Art Vivid.
Yeah, it has a bunch of different modes.
Right,
like
the picture styles, right.
The picture styles. I love the Art Vivid. Like someone said, well, you said it looked like a painting before.
Yeah.
So what I like to do sometimes is I'll try to take out some of the reality from the scene. Well, so I would say try it both ways. Usually, movement is the enemy of HDR. Moving trees, moving people. But for moving clouds and moving water, I strongly suggest doing HDR because the water is going to be in different places.
So it does add to it. And I've always thought of your work as being very art-like, and in that you look at what the masters have done with light. Guys, we got to take a quick break, and we're going to be right back with more from Rick and Bruce, the Canon Explorers of Light and the 5D Mark IV.
Hi everybody, Scott Kelby here, and I want to invite you to check out my brand new class. It's called 7 Photoshop Techniques Every Lightroom User Needs to Know. So I made this class specifically for people who subscribe to the Adobe Photographers Bundle of Photoshop and Lightroom, and they're using the heck out of the Lightroom part, and they're either intimidated or not sure about the Photoshop part. I want to get you up and running fast. I want to show you the most essential reasons why you need to go over, what to do when you get there, and how to make the most of it. And it's exclusively here at KelbyOne.com.
Hi everybody, Mike Cabasi here. Check out my new class, Flat to Flattering. We capture images with a two-dimensional tool. I'm going to show you how to light so that your images look three-dimensional. We're going to teach you how to create depth in your pictures, some texture in the background, how to put a key highlight on the hair, and make your images look flattering. Check out my new class on Kelby One, Flat to Flattering.
Christy from Shark Pixel here, and I am so excited to talk to you about my new upcoming class. It's all about retouching hair. You're gonna learn how to change color, you're gonna learn how to extract from the background, how to take care of flyaways, and at the end of the class, we're gonna get super advanced and start creating our own custom hair brushes so that you will never pull out your own hair again next time you have hair to retouch in Photoshop. So check it out only on KelbyOne.com.
Well, hi everybody. Welcome to 10 Essential Techniques Every Landscape Photographer Needs to Know. My name is Scott Kelby, and we're on location in beautiful Cannon Beach, Oregon. So we're right on the Oregon coastline, and it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous day, and it's a perfect home for what we're going to be doing in this class. And we're going to be covering an awful lot. We're going to be covering everything from gear, from camera settings, for accessories, how to set everything up for maximum success, and we have a lot to cover. Come with us on this journey as we take you through the entire process to help you make the best landscape photos you've ever taken.
Well, hi everyone, Corey Barker here, and I want to tell you about my newest course on advanced compositing and finishing effects. Now, what we're going to be doing is going through the entire process. We're going to be selecting and extracting a subject, building a background element, and we're going to be adding lighting and particle effects to create a really dramatic look. So, we're going to have a lot of fun, you're going to learn a lot of really cool things, and be sure to check it out exclusively at KelbyOne.com.
Welcome back to The Grid. I'm not Scott Kelby. I'm Larry Becker, and I am thrilled to be here because we are talking about the 5D Mark IV, the brand new camera that these two brilliant photographers, Canon Explorers of Light, Bruce Dorn, Rick Sammon, have been shooting for a while now.
Yep.
And answering questions. And I do want to get back to your questions, so let's jump right in. Here's one from Jeff Green. He says, right, we all know Dorn is not wearing any pants. That's actually not a question, but
It's a little
but it's
scary,
true.
though.
yeah.
It's a little
And
scary.
notice my eye contact always stays with the camera. Giamangu Bongo, is that Scott Kelby? Scott Kelly. He looks different. I'm sure it's Scott Kelly. Yeah, that's what it is. Hello from India comes from Surav Mishra. So that person says, hashtag inspired. That's great. I'm so glad I've been able to inspire you. Stu Gaz says, full-time visual of autofocus point like 1DX. Is there a full-time visual of the autofocus point?
You take that one.
Well, I don't use the 1DX.
Well, and I don't shoot so many stills with this. I mean, I'm not sure what that question means.
Well,
full-time
is
visual.
the autofocus point always there, visualized through the optical viewfinder?
Yeah, on this,
Yeah.
So we think the answer is yeah. John Mowry says
Hey, John.
everyone should go on a Rick Sammon workshop. I agree. And until you get there, you ought to pick up the book. They're amazing no matter what your skill level. So John, that is a testimonial from John Mowry about Rick's. You didn't pay him to do that, did you?
No, but he's a great photographer, actually.
That's very cool. And better since he's been to your seminars at his own admission there. Chandra BTX says, agreed, John Mowry. Okay. And Fran Hughes says, if Rick comes to the UK, do a workshop, I'm here.
Well, Bruce, I think we should go together. We'll bring the models, right? We'll bring those rocks.
You don't love me. You just love the fact that I have the Bruce Dorn Girlfriend Network.
I told you in the beginning of this show I have a lot of respect for you.
That's not the same as love. Say the word.
Wayne Young 20 says, 5D Mark III I use in low light, high speed, and goes great. How would the 5D Mark IV go? Low light, high speed.
Well, like I was saying before, when I pick a camera, I want the cleanest possible image with the least amount of noise. So I want the sharpest picture with the least amount of noise. So I'm up in Iceland, as I was saying, I have to do less work getting rid of noise and sharpening the pictures. So I think it's just amazing.
And that's really kind of important with that bigger sensor too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, certainly the sort of conventional wisdom is that the fewer pixel sites, the larger the light bucket and the lower the noise. But I think the sensors are evolving to the point that it's certainly at least as good as the 5D Mark III. I haven't pushed it for high ISOs because I just don't go there. But my sense of the sensor is that it's superior in every way. So,
yeah.
And we get, more than 35% more pixels.
And it's rated higher. So actually the numbers are going to be there. So it's just absolutely what you need. All right, so Valerie Vienna says, or maybe it's Valerie from Vienna, I don't know. What do you think about the still ongoing AA anti-aliasing filter? So, you know what? I don't know the status of the anti-aliasing filter in this. Are you getting super sharp images?
Well, that's what I said, and I think the pictures prove it, how incredibly sharp they are. Even when in HDR, that was a handheld HDR, by the way. Yeah, handheld. And 5 years ago you couldn't do like a handheld HDR. Today the programs stitch them together, including the in-camera.
Okay,
just
did
amazing.
you guys do pixel peeping? Did you get in there and really look at it?
No, but John and Chandra, some of these people in the workshops, they do pixel peep because they want to see. And it's really not a bad thing. You can pixel peep too much. And what pixel peeping is you just zoom in like, 10,000%, and look for like, a piece of noise or something like that. But no, I haven't pixel peeped, but I have made, beautiful, 20 by 24 inch prints with no noise and the cleanest possible shots.
Okay.
Actually, there is a shot. Am I driving Meredith crazy asking her
No,
to?
no, you got it. This is like on the fly. We got to ask our people to do what we got to do.
There's a picture of a horse in there, an Icelandic horse. And what I like about this picture while she's finding it, she's going to tell me afterwards that I was driving her crazy. Anyway, what's nice about this horse, hey, someone just ordered my book. That's great. Thank you. So, Jay Maisel, he talks about gesture all the time. So I have like 50 pictures of this horse, but it's the gesture that makes this shot important to me. But talk about the sharpness. You could see every hair. You could see every hair on this horse is in the mane. So, and getting back to this little AF switch, the AF, what do you call it? The autofocus?
Autofocus area selector.
Man, hey, I think we hear Scott Kelby in here.
Yeah,
right?
we can hear behind the scenes what's going on, and Scott might be joining us.
Hey, how are you?
All right.
Hi, Scott.
So I can't hear you. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear
Hey,
Scott.
Larry, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me.
Hey, he's in the glacial lagoon.
Well, hi, everybody. Oh, I should turn the phone this way. Yeah, there we go. Hey, there we go. So, hi. We are out at some stuff out here. We've got some icebergs and cool stuff. Terry's here. Terry White's with me. Come on, got to get in the picture. There's Terry.
These guys are really
okay, so anyway,
green screen.
Why are you saying re-ending?
I don't know, but hold on one second.
This is exactly where I took that picture.
Okay.
The glacial lagoon.
Okay, back with you live. Anyway, so we are shooting the 5D Mark IV. There's.
He's good at that.
You can tell this is a highly scripted thing here. Anyway, so I don't know if you can hear us, but we have the fabulous 5D Mark IV right here. It's like some kind of a boss. And we are taking pictures of stuff. All right, I'm a terrible Skype cameraman. I don't have to tell you that. I think you can see that pretty clearly. I'm just really bad at Skype. But while we're here, let's give one of our sponsors a plug, Lens Pro. Anyway, back with you live. Anyway, guys, thank you for letting me Skype in. I hope that you hear the audio. So for the last couple of days, we've been using the Canon 5D Mark IV, which we have with us today on location. And this is it right here. Let me see if I can turn around and show you. Well, I guess we can't. I have to do it this way. All right. We're using a 14 millimeter lens on it right now. And it just was announced last week, and we have it on location right here. Giving you the full tour of the camera. And behind us, of course, is not very pretty, but in front of us, almost knocked over the camera, nicely done, is quite an amazing scene. Now, just a few minutes ago was the most beautiful sunset. You just can't believe how beautiful it was out here. Really, really nice. And now, of course, it's not nearly as nice. And my camera is tilty, very tilty. Whoa. Anyway, we've been shooting the camera now for a few days, and I have to say it has been just the boss. It has been a champ. I would say pretty much, see if I can get the camera where I want it. Maybe I'm holding it with the wrong hand. It's been better in every way than what we had before. I mean, I love the 5D Mark III. It's one I've used before, but I keep uncovering new cool things about it that keep getting better and better. So anyway, guys, just wanted this opportunity to be able to Skype in and show you. I don't have any pictures because we're kind of out in the middle of nowhere. We're 45 minutes from our hotel. It's literally, you're driving, there's nothing for hours, and then all of a sudden, whoa, look, look on the side of the road. There's like glacier-like stuff. So that's where we are. Thank you guys for giving us this opportunity to say hi. Wish I could have been there with you guys, but I'll be back next week. And I'll be back Friday, actually. We're flying home Friday. But thanks to Canon, and hi to you guys. And hey, Bruce and Rick. And thanks to Rick Sammon for all the great tips on where to shoot over here. And we'll catch you. There's Bruce. All right, there's everybody. I hope my picture was clear. You guys are awesomely clear. Oh, it came through? All right. You know, you think Terry would freaking hold this and help me out. He's over there taking pictures. Like, do not hold this camera, whatever you do. He's just like, because you know what? We never get to see stuff like this. I'm from Tampa. There's nothing like this in Tampa. Terry is flying a drone out here. Do not hold this, Terry, whatever you do. Don't help me out. You know what he's doing? He's taking a picture of me holding the camera. God, where can I get better friends? Here we go.
Here we go.
God, my arm is about to fall off. All right.
Holding this heavy smartphone.
Now I can just.
See what I'm missing because of you. Look, guys.
Dude,
look what I'm missing because of you.
No, dude, you've been here for an hour.
Ice right there.
He's been here for it.
Floating by that you're not even shooting.
Ooh, I got to shoot this. We'll see you guys. Bye.
Okay. I know exactly where he was. You know, Scott thanked me because my wife sent actually Scott our itinerary, and I sent him the pictures. Now, in the pictures, and this just reminded me of that picture that I showed of the geese floating by.
Right.
He's in exactly that spot, just about exactly, and here's why.
You GPS positioned it.
Exactly. This camera has the GPS in it, so I'm not sure. He might have gone through, and I think that's a cool feature, right, of this camera.
You can leave a breadcrumb trail of everywhere you went, and
that's
each
why the
file
geese
is
were
tagged
there.
with exactly where you shot it.
Actually, I did put breadcrumbs there.
That's easy for you to say.
It's especially when you're on camera and get near the end of the show. But that is a good feature. That glacial lagoon, by the way, if you go to Iceland, that is the high point. You saw the ice floating by. It floats in, it floats back. Just an amazing experience.
Truly beautiful work.
Yeah, and you heard what he said about what Scott said about the weather. You know, I told the joke before about Iceland. You know, if you think the weather's bad, wait 10 minutes. It'll get worse.
Yeah,
it happened.
Guys, I want to, and I don't want any disrespect here, but we got to zoom through a bunch of questions because we have a tight ending time. Unlike sometimes on the grid, we will run a little bit long. I would like to go a little bit long. We have airplane schedules hurricanes and airplanes. All right, so let's run through this really quick. Philip Decker says, how does the camera do with sports and burst shooting? Guys?
Well, I was doing the horse, right? And the
Yep.
the horses were moving forward and backward, and it keeps it in focus. I mean, again, what do I want? I'm not that technical, as Bruce found out at the City Fish, where we're going again tonight, because I'm staying. I'm going to hopefully there's going to be nicer tomorrow. But that's all I want. I want a sharp picture, a clean picture with least amount of noise.
Yeah.
And the autofocus system, like here's another one.
1DX Mark II autofocus system, 7 frames per second. There you
Yeah.
go.
Okay, so it's the same system as the high end.
This is a cute shot. Just a quick tip here. I shoot everything in the almost everything in the aperture priority mode.
Yeah.
So here I'm just putting the background a little out of focus so these horses pop out of the frame.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Tender moment.
Melissa Castle says, I am so excited to move up to this body. Is it much heavier than a 6D?
I don't own a
me
6D.
see.
It's a little lighter than the 5D Mark III. So if you've got a 5D
I have a
Mark III
6D.
to compare to,
I have a 6D.
that's
It feels
the lens.
it feels a little heavier, and this is the 24-105, and that's the one that I have on my 6D. So it feels a little heavier than the 6D, almost not noticeable.
And this is the new 24-105.
Yeah.
Right? And Rudy was telling us
That
before.
one's the STM.
Yep.
This one is the new 24-105
that's- oh, okay.
Series 2. So that's the STM, which is a variable stop, but it's super quiet and
Yeah.
good for the video.
Okay, next Melissa Castle said, that's what Melissa said. Okay, Jason McCosker says, is it worth the upgrade?
Yes.
Okay.
Next.
Rob John says, just ordered Rick's creative visualization book. Can't wait to read it. Well, I'll read it to you now.
Yeah. When Bruce goes, we'll go through.
Scott Patton says, is there an autofocus option for video and
Yes.
tracking?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
it's
yes,
the
yes.
best ever.
That's the big story. It's a dual pixel autofocus. It was introduced on the 70D, refined on the 80D, added to the C100 Mark II and the C300 Mark II, and in a better but even more limited sense added to the 1DX Mark II. It's in its most refined iteration here. It has not just facial tracking, it has object tracking. Now this is important to understand. You can go in and you can tap on an object and it will track that object. It doesn't have to recognize a face. Facial recognition in its early iterations did just faces. I was in the very, very earliest testing, I was shooting a street musician playing a violin. I tapped on his hands as he was working his hand up and down the neck of the violin, and it tracked his hand up and down it. It's spectacular. There's no other camera system that has anything remotely close to the video focusing system on this. It's like a Hollywood grade focus puller on performance enhancing drugs.
Wow, that Canon ought to put that in their ads.
Yeah.
Bruce does video, and he actually did a video for a sample for Canon, and we have a copy of that. So let's look at Bruce's video that he created with this very camera.
And perhaps afterwards we'll look at a couple of frame grabs which I pulled out, and they're also in the background. So let's watch the video, and again, shot with higher than usual shutter speeds for video capture. Normally you shoot a shutter speed that's double the frame rate. I went much higher so it'll feel a little stroby, it would be a good way to put it. Overly crisp in a way, but definitely worth looking at. Is it gonna jump here? Let's roll it. Was on the eve of an already scheduled lifestyle shoot when the new 5D Mark IV showed up on my doorstep. I decided to include it in the shoot and explore the 4K video feature, specifically the ability to do 4K frame grabs. In order to do a good sharp frame grab, you have to use higher than normal video shutter speeds, and that's exactly what we did. Let's take a look at the clip, learn more about the camera, and check out the resulting frame grabs.
Oh, what happened?
Well, it went a lot longer than that. And the best part was the ending.
That was amazing, though.
It was brilliant. You should have
Go
seen it.
online and see it because the ending is special.
Yeah.
Okay. Where can they see it online?
Canon website. If you look for Bruce Dorn and Canon 5D Mark IV on in the Googleverse, you'll probably find it on YouTube pretty quick.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Bruce, very much. I do want to get to more questions. Fabiana De Hofker, new battery grip, or can we use the one from the 5D Mark III?
New grip.
New grip. Johan S31, how is this camera in range in bad light, high ISO solution situations? So high ISO, we've talked about that a couple times.
No complaints from these two guys. I mean, I'm not a low light shooter, but I have zero complaints.
Go to Iceland. Well, even at midnight at sunset.
Yeah, but I mean, you know,
yeah.
I'm talking high ISO, you're talking about a black cat in a coal mine, not anything outside, I think.
Graham from Scotland says, all right, go ahead. What are some of the bad points about the camera?
You know, like everybody else, I wish it did everything I wanted every camera to do for no money.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd like to have a Tesla for the price of a Prius. And this is way sexier than a Prius. No, it doesn't crank 120 frames per second at 1080p, but you can get that if you pay for that feature at the next level up. This has a lot of really great stuff. Let's see, I'm trying to think. From a still shooter standpoint, I can't think of a single complaint. Somebody asked earlier, and we didn't get to address the question about the anti-aliasing filter. A lot of people use this camera for wedding dresses. In weddings, there's veils. Moire is a potential issue. That's why the anti-aliasing filter is there. Everything that I do, for the most part with this camera, goes to the web, so it kills way beyond any requirement.
Sure.
You look at any reality show, and a ton of the scenes are shot with GoPros. People accept all kinds of ridiculous artifacting and so on, and this has nothing like that. It's a terrific camera, works really great. I wish it had no crop factor on the sensor, but that it was electable, because I find it very useful to be able to have that built-in teleconverter. Do I wish it was able to do the entire frame? But at the cost, sure, but at the cost of having to invest in CFast cards, you know. This uses the original data cards that we're used to using. I do suggest that you use the CF cards for 4K video recording rather than the SD cards, because you have to have the fastest SD card for it to keep up with the throughput rates of the 4K. So my advice for now, if you don't have the latest and greatest, definitely go to your CF cards. I'm glad that I don't have to pay several $100 for a 128 gigabyte card in order to be able to record video. You know, if you want to use the CFast-based camera, go up to the 1DX Mark II.
Yeah.
I really don't have any great complaints. I wish it did take the old battery grip, but it does take the old batteries, which I think is great. My feeling is to upgrade at the earliest possible opportunity. A lot of people think that they're really wise when they buy a camera that's half used up. That somebody else, oh, that idiot paid full price, I'm going to buy it from him later for half price. I got the good half. It's like going in halvesies on a hot fudge sundae. Let's go in halvesies on a hot fudge sundae. I get the first half.
No thanks.
I get the whipped cream, the nuts, the maraschino cherry, and you get whatever's left on the bottom.
No.
And we both pay half price. Come on.
I don't
Come
think
on.
I want that. Don't think I, no.
Okay.
No. Graham from Scotland says, okay, yeah, that we did that.
Yep.
Okay, Brian Dorr says, killing it, Bruce. Love the shots on the new camera. Congratulations, Bruce. John Rose says, hi, Rick, from your friends in Little Rock. Steve Wilson says, I never upgraded to the Mark III from my Mark II, so I am so ready for this camera. Can't wait to get my hands on it. You will not regret it, Steve. Jan Hebel, 5D Mark IV or 5D SR, and why?
If you need the faster frame rate, go with the Mark IV. If you need the higher amount of pickles, go with the SR. They both feel exactly the same in the hand. This one has way better video features. If you have no use for the video feature side of it, go with the SR. But I like this a lot.
Yeah, I was shooting with the 5DS out in Mount Rainier. This actually just a couple of days
And we're
ago.
not showing a picture of it.
And we're not showing a picture of it, but it's an amazing, like Bruce said, if you want, the biggest file, I mean, it's an amazing camera.
Mike Patches says,
Hey, Mike.
Rick, hi from Memphis. How do you think the Mark IV will do with my zoo photography?
Well, there's an expression, cameras don't take pictures, people do. Mike is the best zoo photographer I've ever seen. But, in the zoo, sometimes, the scene is, the animals are like in the shade, in the dark. I think you'd be very, very happy, Mike, with the low noise in these areas.
Ulridir Johansson. Did I do that right?
Oh, well,
Maybe?
yeah, I have the answer.
Okay. Will the Really Right Stuff 5D3 bracket fit the 5D4 body?
Yeah, I think he means the L bracket. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
have the 5D Mark III, the L bracket for it. So I put it on the camera, so I'm up at night, and I go to change the battery, and it just overlaps the battery.
Oh.
So every time I change the battery, which lasts a long time anyway, I had to take the L bracket off. So if you have that bracket, you want to bring your Allen wrench to do that. But I'm sure Really Right Stuff, our friends at Really Right Stuff. I saw Bruce use the head. Or no, Scott had the Really Right Stuff head.
Yeah.
Up in Iceland, I saw that. Yeah, you want to bring your wrench if you don't
Just
have
get
the...
a little Arca Swiss plate for now.
Or a hacksaw.
Patrick Forr says, why would any landscape photographer want the 5D4 over the 5DS?
Well, the 5DS does have that super big file. Oh, it's 50 megapixels. Is that right,
Yeah.
Bruce? I think it's about
Yeah,
50.
yeah.
And this is
Yeah.
30. I think the touch screen with the focusing and the maybe the low. I don't know. I haven't I've done a side by
touchscreen
side.
focus, I mean, you can go to live view on the S and zoom in and see what you're doing. I would say stick with the S, because my take on landscape is you want a ton of detail, so more detail there.
David Photo, is the focus point red? The Canon 5D3 had a black focus point or black focus points that would disappear in low light.
They're black.
Yeah, well, I don't see it in here. It must. Yeah, Rudy was using this camera, so I don't know.
So you
I'm
need to-
pretty sure they're black.
Yeah.
Okay. Vic Kumar, isn't the file size for the 4K video 200 plus per gigabyte about 4 times compared to others?
Motion JPEG, each one of those is an 8 megapixel JPEG. Yes, it's going to be bigger. You transfer the motion JPEG to another easier to work with file format if you need to get deeply into editing. But you can do so much in camera with this that you can immediately output and use. I find that if you treat the files properly in camera, I have to do very little work in post, so I'm perfectly happy with this particular codec in this particular camera. In another camera, there might be something interesting to do. We didn't get a chance, nobody has asked yet about the video RAW, which only occurs in 1080p, but essentially the camera, because it will run 60 frames per second in 1080p, what they do is they actually make it for video HDR,
video, yeah.
HDR, not video RAW. I mean, there's no RAW. Video HDR, it shoots at 60i, and it's taking each one of those split pixel sites, because with dual pixel autofocus, they divided each pixel site into left and right, essentially. And so it interlaces the 60i interlaced frames with one that is underexposed and one that is at the normal exposure. So as long as you are watching your, well, essentially you expose normally in any of the auto modes, AV, TV, or even manual. The camera shoots every other one of these half frames at an underexposure. So, and then it mixes it together to give you a 29.97, essentially what we call 30p HDR video. So you get the dynamic range that Rick is so famous for with his HDR work in a video clip. I didn't know that when I was shooting it either. Thank you for no instruction book, but next time I play with it, I'll have a blast.
Bateson 33, what's the difference between the 5D Mark IV and the 1DX? I imagine there are a lot of
A few
differences.
bucks, faster frame rate.
Well, no, 1DX,
there's 1DX,
even
but
in the
not the
same
Mark II.
category these days, the 1DX Mark II, higher frame rate on the still side, not as quite as refined, dual pixel autofocus on the backside. You can get a higher frame rate on the 1DX Mark II. You can get, I think it's up to 120 frames per second in 1080p. Yeah, it's double
That's
the frame
right.
rate that this
Yeah.
can, because it does use the a million times more expensive CFast cards.
Yeah.
Get a card sponsor.
And two processors, the Digic 6 Plus × 2 on the 1DX Mark II. But on the 1DX, if that's what he was actually referring to, I don't know.
Yeah, it's the Wayback Machine.
John Mowry, have either of you printed from the 5D Mark IV to the new Canon wide format printers?
Not the wide format printers, but my wife was watching the first print I made on my Pro 1000. Do you have that?
Yeah,
the
it's
printer?
fantastic.
That's a fantastic printer.
It's a fantastic printer.
She actually said, she says, you made that print. You know, my friend George, do you know George who makes all the prints for, makes a lot of the prints for the
Printer George.
Printer George. He came over, he calibrated the whole thing. Mm-hmm. She could not believe the detail, and it was that Iceland shot with the ice in the background and the geese in the foreground and the details. So I haven't used a wide format, but I have made a big print on that.
Okay.
The reason I stick with Canon is not because they have chosen to acknowledge me as a shooter and I'm a part of the program. It's because of their color. The color science at Canon in the still cameras and in the video cameras has no equal.
Very good.
Yeah.
Bruce, thank you for that. We have one more question, and then I'm going to give you guys each a minute or so to wrap up because we're a little past the end of the show.
Yep.
And so I don't want anybody missing airplanes. So Christopher Soul gives us the last question. Does the 5D Mark IV have less intense color than the Mark III, or is it more like the richer color out of the 6D?
I haven't done a test, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, something changed about the time of the 80D and the 1DX Mark II. I feel it's, yeah, that's all subjective stuff. I'm not a color tester, but I love the way it looks.
You know, one thing on color, and this is interesting, if the person who, I forget his name was, you're comparing the colors, you know, alcohol and caffeine affect how we see color, and so does stress.
Wow.
So yeah, especially if you're making prints, my advice is don't drink and print.
Alcohol and caffeine affect the way I see everything.
But it does affect it. So if you do it a test, try not to be stressed out and try not to drink alcohol or caffeine.
Okay.
Well, I'm never printing again. That's
I'm not. Yeah, I'm out.
Forget it.
Okay, guys, would you please let our audience know just a little bit about what you're doing? How can they follow you?
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about this cool book and anything else you can real quick.
Well, thanks for calling it a cool book. This is my 36th book. My 37th book is coming out in just about 3 weeks. It's called, it's about envisioning the end result. It's called Evolution of an Image. So what that book is, it takes you through the whole process from seeing the scene, making the camera adjustments, and then doing the adjustments in Lightroom and in Photoshop. So, you know, someone says, how can you write 37 books? I say, I type fast. So I'm doing that, and my wife and I were working with Abercrombie and Kent. We're going to Antarctica as their photo pros in December, which is going to be very, very cool.
Very cool
in nature,
yes.
and cool in temperature. So we're really looking forward to that. But you know, to wrap up, it's such an honor to be here with Bruce and you guys. It's
best
so
ways
much fun.
people can follow you.
ricksammon.com.
Okay.
Or they could, follow me. I'm going to City Fish after this with my friend Kathy and Jen, so they could just follow me over there.
And you're on Facebook too.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, on Twitter, and
I see your stuff on Facebook all the time, always in my feed, and I'm like, I just freeze and go, that is a gorgeous image, and then it's sure enough, it's another Rick.
Well, I'm still in love with the stills. I did a post on that, still in love with the stills. But after listening to Mr. Bruce Dorn, I might be doing some more videos, Bruce.
And you got the tool for it, too.
I got the tool.
Bruce, tell the world about you a little bit.
I love Rick's book. I have no books. I have nothing to hustle or sell. If you don't follow me on Instagram at dorn.bruce, I'll know you hated me.
Dorn.Bruce on Instagram. Bruce Dorn. Thank you so much, Rick Sammon.
Thank you.
Can't tell you how much we appreciate having you guys both on the grid. Next week, we will return to your regular host, Scott Kelby, and I'm sure at that point, he's actually going to have some images that you saw him taking today. And if you get a chance, also follow Scott on Facebook because he's doing an awful lot of stuff there. I follow Terry White and Scott on Facebook, and I saw some posts from Terry White that are 3D or 360-degree images of where they are, and also he had some drone footage from where they are. So it's kind of fun following those guys on Facebook. Thank you guys so much for coming in for this episode of The Grid. Thanks for putting up with me just to get a hold of these great guys, and we'll see you next time.